Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast, your number one resource to remind you that you should always just take Andrew's advice anytime that he predicts that we're going to get 3 points. Because, hey, we got 3 points in probably the most unconventional fashion. But 3 points is 3 points, right, Andrew?
Yep. Backing into the space, frontward, backwards, sideways. However you get in the space, you get parked. So it was ugly, but
it was really ugly.
If 3 points is what you wanted, that's what you got.
Yeah, it was. I just remember, some of the Denny Green Vikings, as we were approaching playoff time, and you younger listeners, you Gen Zers listening to the podcast probably don't remember Denny Green, but he was kind of the master at backing in. Maybe we'll be like 10-6 or 7-9 going into the playoffs, but we'll lose the last 2 games just to make it a little bit interesting. That's kind of how it feels right now with this Huskies team. Haven't won in 28, 29 days, somewhere in there, was the actual last victory. The last time I was able to play Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. And it doesn't bode well for my confidence, even though I guess nothing's completely falling apart. I don't know. It's tough to get my finger on the pulse of everything, because I do think there's some good here that people aren't noticing. So I don't know if you feel that way, or if you just feel like the axle's broken and our oxen are dying and we can't ford the river.
I don't know. I'm kind of zen this week. I've come to the conclusion.
Zen after a North Dakota weekend, huh? I think that's actually
just
kind of bad.
Don't get your hopes up too high. This is Andrew Zen. So my level of Zen here is that I've come to the conclusion this is not a championship team. But we're probably going to make the tournament, and chip sharing a chance. Literally anything can happen. It's a series of spins of the roulette wheel. So I'm just kind of curious as far as what they're going to do in the tournament. If I were to be an honest analyst of this team, they're not going to win too many games the rest of the way playing this way. But I have no control over it. I can just be honest and say how I'm feeling about this team. I'm not feeling very good about the team, but short of basically losing out, you're going to make the tournament. And you get a chance in the tournament. But I'm not confident about that chance. But that's my sort of level of Zen, is that
I get that. And especially with all these overtime shootout little wins, the little pity points that we're getting along the way. But I mean, maybe it's because I was there, but that Yale team in 2013, that wasn't that good of a team. They were able to win. Minnesota Duluth, I mean, you're always talking about how crummy those teams were, that they were able to win a championship.
Providence in 15.
Yeah. So now going back to it though, is do you feel like this team can win 4 in a row to do that?
Yeah, probably not.
And that's
probably not.
And that's where we kind of have a little bit of a hang up here. The thing is that I'm looking at it from the positive aspect is that we still know what's broken. Still on the power play. We've only allowed 1 5-on-5 goal all weekend. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on, is that there's just a little bit of a positive light when it comes to that aspect. And my main issues are obviously the penalty kill. That's been incredibly rough, but also just I don't know if North Dakota was just that good at holding the zone, or we were just absolutely atrocious at clearing the zone. And as of late, I think it's a little bit more that we've been really bad at clearing the zone. And I mean, there were multiple times that North Dakota was able to have sustained pressure. Minute 15. I think there was a stretch that was closing on 2 minutes, maybe even a little bit over.
A 4-minute stretch in the second period on Saturday. That's what the North Dakota announcer said.
Jeez. So, and a lot of those were just not being able to clear the zone. I mean, we just flipped it right out, or a misflip. Sulquist's misflip that, that, you know, obviously I don't have to rag on Sulquist more than but I might. So it's just, anyway, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that, like, I think all these things are teachable, or I think they're fixable. And I think once everything kind of gets back on the right track, I think we're going to go back to where we were at the beginning of the year. Now, will we be able to write that before time runs out? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I mean, I had been throughout the bulk of the year, their 5-on-5 play was sort of the feather in the hat for me for the Huskies. Is we were complaining about the penalty kill for good reason, and at times complaining about the power play as well. But I sort of hung my hat on, this is a team that 5-on-5 can play with anybody. This weekend against not a very good North Dakota offense and a bad North Dakota defense and goaltending, to be outplayed at 5-on-5 was the real kind of shocker to me this weekend. And the real frustrating part of it too. I mean, it seemed like in both games that the Huskies were skating uphill. There was really no stretch that they really asserted themselves and took control of the game, even with leads in both games, third period leads. That's the other thing. Talking about how North Dakota this year has been a terrible third period team, and how the Huskies have been a great third period team. Those third periods were, other than that power play goal coming at the tail end of a 5-minute major power play goal on Friday, those third periods were pretty drab. And we mentioned the second period on Saturday was a game of keep away that North Dakota won. They didn't score that period. It was incredible. St. Cloud won that period. It was 1-0 that period. St. Cloud, just the puck advantage, the possession was just so heavily tilted. So
Sloshman had a tweet on Saturday night. Puck possession in the offensive zone for North Dakota was 19 minutes 36 seconds, which is nearly a full period, obviously, in the offensive zone.
Just in the offensive zone.
In the offensive zone. And St. Cloud was at 6 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I responded to that with that long, huh? Like, we were in the offensive zone for that long, because it didn't feel like it. Even 6 minutes felt like it was more than it than it looks on paper.
Yeah, and the defensive. I mean, I thought Meyer played well this weekend. I thought he was the best defenseman for him, but I still saw some struggles from Peart and Lutke. Getting into penalty trouble, basically played 5 minutes. Probably played 1 or 2 shifts on Saturday, and then
he played 2 shifts before getting the Hevo. Which I get that's a 5-minute major, and I get that aspect. I thought game misconduct was a little harsh, especially if you're not going to kick out Gaber on Friday for his, check from behind, and I felt like that was kind of a weak game misconduct call. And I looked it up in the rule book too, because I was wondering if it was like you have to call a 5-minute, or I have to call a game misconduct as well. And that's all at referee's discretion. So, I mean, to go from not calling a penalty on it at all to, okay, yes, you're getting the boot after review, I thought was quite the 180 there, to say the least. Dumb play by Lukey. Not defending Lukey at all. It was incredibly stupid, but I thought that was harsh. Not that would have changed the game at anything either. So,
yeah. So But I didn't think that the defense was terrible. I mean, they were better this weekend than they have been the last 2 series prior to this. I thought maybe that has something to do with North Dakota not having a ton of guns. I mean, other than Gaber, who whenever he was,
Gaber
on the
and
ice
Blake
and touching the puck there, I mean, I thought he was going to win it there on the Saturday overtime as well.
Yeah.
Did not want to see him with the puck. But aside from those few options, not a ton of guns forward wise for North Dakota. And so maybe that had something to do with that. And even the penalty kill, I mean, giving up the power play goals on Friday, I thought Bassey kind of let him down on the first 2. So, I mean, I'm willing to give the defense a bit of a pass this weekend. Even though, again, the zone exits, breakout passes, those kind of things were certainly sloppy. But
that was bad.
But I thought they did a decent enough job to keep them in the game. And like I said, goaltending was a little dicey. Even Castor I thought was kind of juicy with rebounds or unclean with rebounds on Saturday. But if the goaltenders too, and getting back to the tournament, getting ahead of ourselves, but forecasting the NCAA tournament, I think these goaltenders have the ability to go on a run themselves, either one of them. So, I mean, that gives you a chance as well, too. So, but it's also too, it's just eerie, the similarities between this year and last year. Last year, right around the same time of year, started in late January and ran into mid-February. A 6-game winless streak where they were 0-3-3. Is a lot of the same teams too. The teams that were involved in last year's 6-game winless streak was North Dakota. You had 1 game against Duluth. Remember, they had those COVID rescheduled games on Tuesdays, so that was one of them. And Denver as well. Denver wasn't part of this year's 6-game winless streak, but it was the series right before it. This 6-game winless streak coincides with Anhorn's injury. Last year, that 6-game winless streak, 4 of those games were without Perbix, last year's best defenseman, not because of injury, but because he was at the Olympics. Larson as well was gone for the team during that 4-game stretch. And they were able to right the ship with a win over Western, but then got swept at Omaha right after that. And who do we got next? Omaha. At Omaha. And so last year, the last 17 games, 4-9-4. That's how they ended the year. And I'm wondering if we're just going to come down to basically a carbon copy of that. It might even be down to playing Duluth in a home playoff series, which looks more and more likely. So there's a lot of similarities. That part of where the similarities end, though, is the difference there is last year that Duluth team you played and North Dakota team you played during that stretch, those were tournament teams. This year they're not. This year you've got Miami was involved in this streak, clearly not an NCAA tournament team. So you're playing the same teams, but they're not at the same caliber as they were last year. And so, but we were complaining too about kind of the same. I remember special teams was a big talking point during that stretch as well. Power play had gotten off to such a great start that year, but it was really tailing off during that time. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the COVID cancellations, reschedulings, and then having, basically Shayak take over an interim role while the Olympics were going on. I'm sure that was, and losing your bye week because of COVID. I'm sure that had something to do with the struggles at the end of last year, right around this time of the year. And so they are a little different this year in nature, but it is kind of eerily similar how the script has been playing out. I mean, to the point where St. Cloud's great start last year, similar to this year, both were number 1 teams at one point in the year. And that seems like a distant memory, even though, as you said, a month ago, essentially, this team was ranked number 1 in the classic Austro poll. So I don't know. Last year they were unable to really right the ship. And again, you could point to the Renak injury as being key in that. Who knows what would have happened if he weren't to have contracted pneumonia. But hopefully this team can right the ship this year. But my confidence level is probably telling isn't terribly high. And going to Omaha this weekend last year, like I said, was not a very competitive series from the Huskies' perspective. For them to right the ship here is going to be a tall task. So I'm intrigued to see what team shows up here this weekend, but really wanted a win this last weekend. Didn't get that necessarily. I mean, not counting the shootout wins as true wins.
No,
but
we don't count. We only count real wins on this podcast. We don't count those fake, those other type wins. Not here.
I mean, he's helping you out. I mean, that's the other difference. Last year, those 3 ties, 2 of those were shootout losses. So I mean, you're able to gain 3 points by winning all 3 of these shootouts, which from a conference points perspective is pretty big because that home Duluth series looms. I mean, Duluth's got Miami this weekend at home. So that bodes well for Duluth coming off a win at Denver for them. So you gotta like their chances of getting a majority of the points at the minimum, and 6 points, a decent chance of that. If you go into that last series playing Duluth, and Duluth still has a chance to tie you at least, because if they were within 6 points and they swept you, they'd win the tiebreaker because they won the season series from you. So if that's the case, I would be really worried about that last series against Duluth. So again, all you need is 3 points from here on out. You got four games left. You need 3 points to clinch a home playoff spot.
Yep.
And you should be able to get 3 points in 4 games. But at this point, at how they're playing, nothing's a sure thing with this club. And so, I don't know. We got to see something. And I'll give Larson too. I know I've been on here for a while, but give him some credit. On Saturday, really changed the lineup up.
Yeah.
And so seeing from his perspective a willingness to try some new stuff out. Even on Friday, we saw that a third unit on the power play on that 5-minute major, and they were the ones to score.
And they were the ones to score. Yeah,
Miller, you saw. Just a nice greasy goal, the kinds of goals that we've really wanted to see. And they were on the ice for maybe 15 seconds, and at the tail end of a 5-minute major power play.
Finally, Miller was on the power play.
That's right.
So
Spellisy, who we've been advocating for to get some power play time. So, and then on Saturday, like I said, I mean, we saw Grant Deshawn. We mentioned his name. He lives, and I thought he actually played pretty well. Gave him a spark. And so being able to try some new things here when, at that point, a 5-game winless streak, you should think of changing some stuff around. And I'm glad he was able to pull the trigger there. So if we can maybe continue to see willingness to shuffle things around if they're not working, Ashan, I'm sure, was in there for Rosborough, who did not have a good game on Friday. See that going forward here. Guy has a bad game on Friday, pop one of these, Ashan types who've been, maybe like a coin or someone that doesn't see a ton of ice time. A guy like Ashan hasn't seen the ice in a couple of months. Those guys really tend to play at least that first game that they get back in. They provide a nice spark because they've been itching to get back on the ice. So you can maybe use that guy for a little spark of energy going on the stretch. I don't know, something, but that was at least a pleasant thing to see, that there is some willingness to tinker.
I'm gonna go, hop in the Wayback Machine again, just because I'm that older millennial. Gonna go Peabody and Sherman here in the Wayback Machine. Go back to 03-04 season.
This is your favorite season.
Yeah, because it's just so perplexing. It's just, we just come out of the shoot and we're 8-1-2 or something like that, and we just ended up just crashing and burning. And that kind of was a symbol of kind of a lot of Craig Dahl's season. It was always the swoon. It was the second half swoon. And that's kind of what we've been getting here with Larson over these past 2 years. And I really hate to go back to that. Now, I don't think it's exactly as comparable as that season, just because as we ended that 03-04 season, we were giving up 5, 6, 7 goals a game, and that's definitely not the case. But kind of breaking down some of these games is, we're a 3-1 lead, for the Huskies on Friday. And then we take a penalty, and then you just kind of felt, even in that power play, is like, I'm going to like our chances if we kill this power play. But if they pop in a power play goal here, this is a big kill. Like, if they pop in, I don't like our chances going forward. Sure enough, they pop in that goal, and it's just, I didn't have any confidence that this team was going to pull it out. And sure enough, it took a little bit longer. It was the extra attacker goal. It was some really bad defense by Bushy having his back turned to the play, and Okabe, who was way too high, just allowing Reese Gaber free real estate. And sure, it was just an easy catch and a goal there to tie it up, and then you just knew North Dakota had all the momentum to pop it in there at the end. So it's just so frustrating, because if it wasn't on the power play, Cronulla 2 goals, and then like you said with Molinar, it was just one of those, like, all special teams. That was kind of all of the goals that were going to happen that game. But even 5-on-5, it was like the second period, I thought Bassey played incredibly well to kind of keep the Huskies in it, keep the lead going. But UND was just able to be opportunistic, and they were able to capitalize. And through that opportunisticity, is that a word? I'm going to coin it. Opportunicity. Our opportunistic nature that we had at the beginning of the year is just absolutely gone. And maybe that was just puck luck. Maybe that was just straight luck of the Lord of Crookshank. And now that everything is dried up for him as of late, and so have the Huskies in some of those key situations. So, but just, we're playing so bad in that last few minutes of the third period on Friday. You knew that goal was coming, and they were going to end up tying it out. And Gaber and Blake are the two that you have to worry about on this team. And sure enough, we leave Gaber wide open.
Yeah, and that's just inexplicable. I don't get just keying on him in particular. And you had 2 guys over on that side of the ice that lost track of him, or I don't know if he was wearing invisible ink.
I feel the Huskies are playing, like, I don't know if they're playing scared, they're playing timid. They just feel like they're always going to make a mistake, so they're not letting the game come to them. And it's just incredibly frustrating that just to see the team playing just as scared as they are and passive. And that's what made North Dakota able to just run all over the Huskies all weekend.
Yeah, so many opportunities on Friday to salt that game away. And you're mentioning the opportunistic. What was your adjective you just coined?
Opportunicity.
Several shorthanded chances this weekend, which, we've talked about the struggles of the penalty kill, and, perhaps the theory goes is that they were trying too hard, being too aggressive, which I the last couple of weeks, I haven't seen that so much. This week, this series against North Dakota, I did see more aggression on the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. Again, you gave up a number of power play goals this weekend, but like I said, that first goal on Friday, you look at that screenshot of the goal with McLaughlin. It's going in on Bassey at a 1-on-4. There's 4 Huskies in there. Bassey bites too early. You just can't give that goal up. But it's not like a true kind of missed coverage power play opportunity. The 5-minute major that Velutke won on Saturday, there was 2 or 3 chances where St. Cloud had the better chances on that 5-minute major.
Yeah,
North Dakota did. And
that was a great forecheck that we had.
It was,
and
yeah. And the one on Friday too, where DeRitter coughs it up. It was on a power play for North Dakota and coughs it up. And I believe it was Kupka had just a glorious opportunity. I think it was still 2-1 at that point. Maybe it was 3-1. Can't remember. But that was one where I think in the first half of the year they score that goal as well, because that would be just a killer. Like their goaltender kind of coughs it up right to them. Didn't he do that in St. Cloud? I think he was involved in a play where he handled the puck and turned out disastrous. So maybe the worm has turned a little bit as far as good fortune with those kind of opportunities. But yeah, it's weird to say that I thought the penalty kill wasn't as atrocious as it has been, even though they did give up, like I said, a number of goals on it. And even like the extra attacker goal isn't a power play goal, but you are a man down. And even that one, you look at the screenshot you showed me, it's like they didn't even have he wasn't the sixth guy in the zone at that point. They only had 5 guys in the zone during that play. And so St. Cloud it's not like they were outmanned at that particular time, but you just let a huge path to pass and the guy wide open, and they're probably their best player, all around player to boot. So just can't have that happen. And it was just, again, couldn't score with a minute and change of the empty net prior to that as well. It's like they had so many opportunities to put the game away and weren't able to do it. And the lack of push. I mean, these overtime periods for St. Cloud, as you mentioned during the Miami series, like it's not been very pretty for St. Cloud. Just kind of playing for the Tides, what it looks like most of the time. And I've been fortunate to pick up some of these cheap points in the shootout, which better than losing those shootouts. But
shots in overtime. St. Cloud has 6. And our opponents have 19. So we're getting outshot 19-6 in overtime.
And I thought it was something. I thought the Huskies only had 5 or 6 shots after the Miami series. You gave the stat then. So yeah, I can't remember how many shots they had collectively this weekend in these 2 games, but it wasn't a whole lot. 1 on Friday,
none on Saturday,
0 on Saturday. I mean, 13 shots on goal on Saturday. They didn't get their 10th shot on goal until about halfway through the third. And it just was, just a miracle that they were leading the game at that point. 2 goals on the first 6 shots or so. And it was almost enough to win, which is kind of one of those backing into the win more than anything. It's getting old, like seeing this kind of game here the last 3 weeks or 3 weekends of series. Don't want to see it stretch for another week here, but I'm not feeling all that hot about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like it's also, I don't think it's going to let up coming against Omaha, but this team kind of crumbles when it is pressed up against aggressive forechecks. And I thought that, especially on Saturday, North Dakota really dialed up the intensity on the forecheck. And I think Peart, he had he had a really rough weekend. He coughed up the puck quite a bit, and just we didn't have the breakouts, and it was, you could just tell that it was like everywhere we tried to go, UND had a player there. So everything has just become a little bit too predictable. Or we do the patented, let's wait behind our own net, and then everybody else goes to the other blue line, and we just try a stupid stretch pass. I absolutely hate that. And I know every team does some variation of that, but it's so unnecessary to just give away a free icing like that when you have the puck. But it's that intensity that has led to a lot of turnovers, and it led to North Dakota having so many chances and so much offensive zone pressure, is because that I don't know if it's we're not getting the support from the forwards coming back, or we're just easily telegraph all of our passes or whatnot. But it's just been incredibly frustrating to watch, just the sustained zone pressure that these other teams have been able to have over the past couple of weekends. And I think Omaha is not going to let up against Omaha. I mean, this Omaha is kind of a high-powered team when it comes to that pressure. And that's, if we're going to right the ship, we got to tighten up in our breakouts, and clear the zone when we have the chance. Because that's, I think, kind of our biggest issue right now is that, we've got Sulquist kind of flubbing that puck to the, the prime chance to clear, and he just kind of easily gives it right back to North Dakota. And it's just like you're Division I. You can't mess up flipping the puck out of the zone like that, as much as these Huskies have been. So I keep waiting for this team finally to get back on track, and I do think it's going to happen. It has taken longer than I hoped, and now we're going over to Omaha, which has been giving us fits lately. I mean, we used to dominate that Omaha series, and as of late, it's definitely turned the other direction.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not the how they match up well against certain opponents. That's the other thing about looking at the other potential NCAA tournament teams. There's not the way that the Huskies are playing. It's like I don't feel confident playing any of these teams.
No.
There's really no team that they really match up well against, because it used to be, like I said, a 5-on-5 team. I'll take that over, like a UND who's kind of being carried offensively by their power play. Same as like a team like Cornell's got a really good power play. Or it's like, traditionally Huskies have struggled against, defensive first, like a Michigan Tech is a team that I don't like the style of play to match up well with the Huskies. But for a team like traditionally what I think of this team is
like a team like an Air Force, or a team like a Ferris State, or a team like an AIC, or a team like Maine, or a team.
Keep going. You got a lot. You're missing a bunch here.
Michigan times 2. A team like Clarkson.
Clarkson. Oh God, don't remind me of that one. Wisconsin. We'll be here all day.
Yeah,
99 bottles of beer on the wall playing that game with Huskies in the NCAA tournament opponents. But yeah, that's the thing.
That's a song I don't want to go through.
No.
999 NCAA tournament losses. 999 losses in tournament.
You can workshop it. I think there's something there.
Take Ferris State down, pass it around. Now AIC tournament loss. Anyway.
So Omaha's gonna be tough, and we'll get more in depth with previewing them. But it's like if they play Miami again this weekend, it's like I wouldn't be all that confident either. I'm more concerned with how the Huskies are playing rather than who they're matching up well against, because it's just not looking pretty.
Yep, I agree. Let's then we'll head over talk about Omaha, but first. Let's do your Go Huskies Woo player of the weekend. So who do you have for your POW?
Yeah, I mean it was such a tough call. We've been waxing poetic about how well the Huskies played this weekend, and about how everyone, all 4 lines, all defense were just clicking on all cylinders. I am going to go with Cranola.
Uh-huh.
It's almost become like a one-man show here offensively, which isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, it's better than having a no-man show. But Cranola getting 3 of the 5 goals this weekend. We mentioned Molinar and Spencer Meyer as being the other 2, both of those in the power play.
I do agree. I thought Meyer, this is his first game that I felt in a while that he's like he was solid. I thought.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and popping in a goal to boot. I mean, it's good to see. But yeah, Cranola getting the only even strength goal for the Huskies this weekend, and then also the 2 power play goals on Friday. He's And you got to imagine that teams are going to start to, if the offense is going to be so heavily tilted towards Crandall, that teams are, and I'm sure teams have already been keying on him. I mean, it's no secret that he's been probably their best player all year, but especially of late, I mean, especially the power play, he's been really carrying that unit, which was, again, very nice to see other guys contribute on the power play. Because I think they said it was like 6 straight power play goals for Crandall for the Huskies, their last 6 power play goals. So, but he is having a great year, and he was the Huskies' best offensive player this weekend, I thought, by far. So at the end of the day, it wasn't too tough. How about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, go Huskies will also said that Cronla was the player of the weekend. Just kind of ends up always steps up against North Dakota. I mean, and that's what your top players, that's what they need to do. And I do also like his swagger at the end of the second period in the intermission interview when asked about, I think that was on Saturday's game when North Dakota just dominated and Huskies still had the lead. And Cronolo was like, yeah, well, we still have the lead. They dominate, but they didn't have anything to show for it. So we still have the lead. And we just need to take care of business. I mean, they didn't take care of business, but I still kind of like that there was some kind of personality coming out in an intermission interview, which normally isn't the case.
Look at you psychoanalyzing the intermission interviews with players. You've been on record here saying that we should abolish all of those.
Yeah, because they're usually garbage. They're usually fat garbage. They're terrible. Oh, we just got to play our game, get pucks in deep, and hopefully pop one in. Oh, thanks for your analysis there.
So your suggestion would just be a Twitter troll for these. So like in this case,
that would be great.
Hey, that wasn't a very good period for you, and then Crandall just goes scoreboard.
Yes. Oh, how great would that be? Just be cocky. Just so arrogant.
Okay, well, we have to have a scenario where we have a dog crap period, but we still have the lead, and then we got to feed him that line. He's got to be the guy to have the interview, and then we'll feed him the line. And
he essentially said that during the intermission. So it's
and with the Finnish accent too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, scoreboard. So that's not a very good Finnish accent. But.
No, and I don't think I would even understand how to do one. But I am actually going to go a little bit of a different direction. And I am actually going to go with Caster. And the reason why I'm going to go with Caster is I do agree that he did leave up some kind of juicy rebounds. But I think without that performance overall, and with just how much zone time and how much he was peppered with shots, I thought he was just mostly solid. And obviously stopping all 3 in the shootout too. I think without his performance, it's a disastrous weekend. And we are really, almost hitting the panic button when it comes to whether or not we're going to get home ice.
Well, was it last week? I'll say that's props. I wanted to say he was not juicy rebounds. It just there was rebounds he wasn't clean. He wasn't catching the puck clean. But the rebounds he was allowing were just kind of in his immediate perimeter, and they didn't cause too much havoc. Mm-hmm. But you just, again, 30-13 shot advantage and just that time of possession for North Dakota in the offensive zone, just to give up the 2 goals, I think is praiseworthy. So, yeah, I agree with that. I can't remember what I was going to say. I thought I was going to go somewhere else, but no, because last week we had a question that said, are we going to hit the panic button if St. Cloud does not win this weekend? I think that's what the question was. Or was it if they got swept? I can't exactly know what the exact verbiage was.
I don't listen to this podcast. What are you talking about?
And I thought we were both kind of like, we're close. We might be hitting it. And again, getting 3 out of 6 points. And my version of the most depressing Zen ever led off this show. Perhaps I'm neglecting the panic buttons. Like panicking is more fun. Like I get like riled up and angry. My blood gets boiling a little bit. This was more just kind of
More the same.
like I'm sinking into the couch, kind of like it's not even getting me hot and bothered so much. The Miami series was more hot and bothered. This was more. So, but I have through all that, no wins this weekend. Go into North Dakota 7th in pairwise. Come out of North Dakota winless, and you're to 5 in pairwise. How's that work?
What a system! What a system the pairwise is. Just speaking of garbage, God, the pairwise is just trash. But that's what we have, and it's what we do. So
it helps that some teams ahead of you had bad weekends.
I mean, we'll get to sinkers and floaters, but I mean, Boston was kind of the one.
Penn State also got swept. Plus, with the overtime loss, a road overtime loss, isn't a bad. With the road weighting as well, you basically get 0.4% of a win with an overtime loss, and then you get basically 0.6% of a tie because of the road weightings as well. You get an extra 20% for a road result. So you add it all up, you basically got 1 point out of 2 games. It would be the same as if you played North Dakota once and won. That's weird. Like having 2 games where you don't win is equal to essentially one win in 1 game. Mm-hmm. But that can sort of explain why, again, you jump a couple of spots even though you lose or you don't win any of these games. But going to overtime on the road, you do get some RPI boost from that. So that's the system that we live in. I don't like it either, but and I've been the one on the record saying I wouldn't mind sinking a little bit. So up to 5.
Up to 5. We're doing a bad job sinking by all these overtime games, non-wins. Quickly, I wanted to go back to your point when we were talking about Cronulla and teams kind of focusing in on him. I don't think it's a coincidence that Cruikshank and Cronulla are kind of going in ebbs and flows. And what I mean by that is that I feel like when Cruikshank's on fire, Cronulla sometimes leaves back a little bit, and then vice versa. And Cruikshank has gone through 2 kind of stretches where he, really didn't get any points. Obviously, he's in a 6-game stretch right now, where he hasn't been able to get anything on the score sheet. But the other time is, earlier against the, kind of the Bemidji State series, kind of back then. And Cronulla was able, obviously, at Bemidji State was kind of an asterisk on that one, but Cronulla showed up for that one. And Cronulla's been hot now. Cruikshank hasn't, it's the last 5 games. He had the goal against Minnesota Duluth. But so I think there's just kind of that ebbs and flows that I think teams are just kind of gunning on one of them, and then the other will kind of step up. And I think that's what's happening here. Now, there's a little bit of a hole in that theory just because Cronulla is coming on the power play, where they were able to kind of shake things up. And he has the one-timer spot in the power play, not Miettinen, which has worked incredibly well. So, but, I have a feeling that if teams do start kind of pegging down on Cronulla, Cruikshank's going to start opening up and getting some better defensive assignments and kind of jumpstart that. So that's just kind of my theory when it comes to, I don't think there's a lot of teams in NCAA that can stop both, and I think that's what we're kind of seeing right now.
Yeah, and if we can get more contributions from those bottom 6, we just saw the power play goal from that Spalacy, Molinar, kind of a patchwork.
The hodgepodge.
Miller. And But like I said, I thought Ashan played well, and there was some spurts from those lower six players, bottom six. I hate saying lower six, but bottom six players. I thought had some moments, and if we can get more of those, that'd be nice. I mean, they split up that international line as well. So they kind of took your advice. I think you said Okabe with Miller and Cruikshank last week. I think so. I think you had Okabe playing with Cruikshank at the very least. So
yep,
yeah, it's nice to see some cycling through. Need to see it click a little bit better than it did on Saturday, but I like the idea to do it. If it ain't working and things aren't really working right now, you got to change some stuff up.
Mm-hmm. So let's flip on over then. Let's anything else. Let's put a bow on North Dakota and get away from Grand Forks, which is always actually my advice in life, is just away from Grand Forks. So anything else you want to add about the weekend or the series? Perfect.
We're dusting the hands off.
Boom. Omaha, the Riviera of the NCHC, as it's been known. It's going to be a nice balmy 40, 42, I think, is in the forecast, which is great for I'll say this. If you're going from St. Cloud, you should have left by now, because we are projected I think in some spots to get 25 inches of snow.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to get absolutely slaughtered starting tomorrow, or starting, I would say, overnight tonight. When this goes up, you're probably looking at snow if you're looking at this podcast before the weekend. I'm actually, if St. Cloud hasn't left already, they definitely should have. I will say that, because I don't think it's scheduled to stop until Friday.
I looked at the weather for Omaha.
Now you're coming from the south, so
21 degree high on Friday.
Oh, really?
And then it'll be the 40s the next 2 days. But when I looked at that, and it was like 1 degree low on Friday, I remember that I lived in that for 31 years. And now I've been like, I went to dinner tonight in shorts. I have a winter coat, but I haven't worn it since I've been down here. I hope it still fits, but I'll have to bring it. So, but I'll be in Omaha for 48 hours. I can tough it out. If I did it for 31 years or whatever it was, I think I can tough out a weekend in Omaha. But it did not look like they were going to get any of that snow. So no snow, hopefully, in during the weekend. At least that would affect my travel. So,
that's good.
Maybe that's what they should do. St. Cloud should come down to Arizona and then travel from here to Omaha, because then they wouldn't have snow. So just, if they have any extra cash laying around for an extra trip, they could swing by Castor's old stomping grounds in Phoenix, and then just bus it from here or something. There's always options. There's
options. Yeah. My favorite trivia about Omaha is that it is the second most populous city in the United States, where the city name has more vowels than consonants in their name.
Say that again.
So, Omaha is the second most populous city where there are more vowels than consonants in their city name.
So I gotta take a swing at the other one. Miami.
Uh-huh. It is not. Omaha has more of a population than Miami.
Miami must have a lot of suburbs.
Yeah, it's all the suburbs and the surrounding areas.
I thought that was a home run there.
Yeah, right? I thought so too. When I heard this, I was really surprised by that.
Well, just
Omaha population is about 400. Yeah, about 500,000, and Miami population is about 440.
So, else would be, it's got to be like a short. How many letters in the name of the city?
A lot.
There's a lot.
It's a lot. And I'll give you, if you want a hint that'll give it away, I can give that. Or if you want to noodle on it some more, we can come back to it.
I was going to say maybe like
talk.
San Antonio?
Nope.
Not Honolulu. That's 4-4. And I don't think there is that big either.
We can come back to it. Or I could give you a little bit of a hint.
Milwaukee?
No. That is Algonquin for the good land.
It's good to know.
And it's the only major U.S. city to elect 3 socialist mayors.
That's right. Victor Berger, 1912. Don't ask me how I know that.
I do not know. I know mine from Wayne's World. I don't know how you know.
My senior thesis was on Eugene V. Debs. He was a socialist candidate for president 5 times. So
5 times?
I got in. Yeah, never won. Strangely.
Oh, really?
But and his most successful one, he ran out.
Are you saying he was 4 short?
Yeah, a little bit. You gave him some more. If he just got on the game late, he died. Like he would have kept going.
He would have kept going. Sure enough.
His the one where he got the most votes, he ran that campaign out of a prison cell.
There you go. I'd like to. Is it published anywhere? Can I get? How would I be able to get
my senior thesis? I don't.
Yes.
It's not a work of real scholarship. Trust me. It didn't have a point. It was a glorified Wikipedia page.
Gotcha.
Essentially.
So
anyway, yeah, I was gonna say Boise, but that must not be as more populous than Omaha, and it's not a crazy long name. Just give it to me. I'm dying of curiosity.
You got to go to your neighboring state of New Mexico.
Oh, Albuquerque.
Albuquerque.
That is a good trivia question.
Yeah, it's a really good one. So
maybe that'll start a new bit. The U.S. Geography Trivia Corner on the Huskies Hockey Podcast.
I don't know. Yeah, Albuquerque is about 560,000.
All right.
So
good to know.
That's my Omaha trip, and they also have a zoo, which they're very proud of.
They do.
My parents used to actually go to quite a few Omaha Lancers games when they lived down in Yankton, South Dakota, which is right on the border of South Dakota and Nebraska. They really liked going to Omaha Lancers games over like Sioux Falls at that time. This was before Sanford Center was built, so they liked Omaha's production a little bit more. Anyway, Omaha, the team, the Mavericks. Obviously a surprise. I mean, considering that I pegged them for last in the conference. And really their big turning point, I would say, throughout the season is when they kind of made a big switch in goal. And he has really propelled them to where they're at in, I don't think are they a lock for home ice? I think they're a lock for home ice at this point, right?
I'll double check on that. Keep going.
But I can't, they started off with was it Kukarski? And I think,
yeah.
I mean, he was about 500 or so, and then and I'm going to butcher his name because I've only seen it in print and I haven't watched a lot of Omaha games this year, but Latkozy, Simon Latkozy, 9-2-1 on the year, and with a 177 goals against average. So it's really been his net over the past. I think they made that switch, starting, kind of in St. Lawrence or so. I think they had one. I think Kukarski got one start against Western Michigan and then got pulled after the first period. And then I assume it's going to be Simon's net kind of the rest of the way. And he's a freshman.
Yeah, this Kucharski played the second game against Miami. He actually played the last game that Omaha played. But that was his first
did he play that one?
Yeah, that was his first action since that Western game that he was pulled. I was surprised to see him in net.
I missed that. Okay.
Kucharski has still played more games than Latkozy, 18-14 this year. But as you said, that was kind of their big question mark coming into the year. If you remember, like our season preview, you had Seville last year, and then Roden, the other guy that was always kind of a pest for the Huskies. Huskies could never solve Roden. Roden transferred to Providence. Seville signed a pro contract with Vegas. So their goaltending situation was a black hole. And it started the year kind of with a Castor-Bassi-esque split between these two guys. That first game for Latkozy, first ever college game, was one of those Niagara games at the first series of the year, where it seemed like your prognostication was spot on, because that sweep to the hands of Niagara, and Latkozy gave up 4 goals in that second game against Niagara. The following week, they go to Lake State. He gives up 4 goals in the first period to a terrible Lake State team. They pull him. Ever since then, he has not given up more than 2 goals.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, basically since the first of this year, for first of calendar year, he's been getting the majority of the action. He got both games, saw action in both games at Western, started both games at against CC last weekend. Then they went back to the split this previous weekend against Miami. But so it's not been like Kucharski's no longer ever going to see the ice. I mean, just look at Latkozy's numbers. You'd assume that he's going to be getting, or he's deserving of both games. I mean, right now that 177 goals against, granted, just with the 14 games played, that's second in the country, and save percentage, he's number 1. Again, that's a little skewed because, Devon Levi, for Northeastern, is right behind him at 933, and he's basically played double the action. So I always feel like there should be a minimum games played to qualify. It's kind of like, an ERA title. Like, you need to have a minimum number of innings pitched to qualify for that. Like, I think there should be something similar with hockey goalies. But whether or not you can say that it's a small sample size, he's been playing lights out. So that was certainly not, I would imagine, not in the this is what we're going to bank on this year, Omaha fans. We're going to have Simon Latkozy lead the league and lead the country in save percentage. But that's how it's shaken out to this point. And from the offensive side, you got Randall, Jack Randall had a really good start to the year, was leading the country in goals scored for a while, like close to Christmas time. It's cooled off a little bit, but still has got a 30-point season going. And guys like Weiss and Berg, Mueller. These guys have been contributing. It's not necessarily a team that's running 4 lines deep with talent. Also got a very good power play unit. They're at 9th in the country in their power play percentage. That's actually ticked down a little bit. They were closer to the top not too long ago. So another weekend, mentioned it last weekend, so many teams in this conference have supercharged power plays. Another weekend that the Huskies PK is going to have to show up to have a chance here. So, and as you mentioned, it's go ahead.
And well, I was going to also add on, Omaha's penalty kill also is not that great. I mean, that's right now at 79%, 79.8, so 80%. So it's another one of those series where special teams is gonna really come into play, and came into play obviously last weekend, and it's gonna kind of keep coming into play, and hopefully that we get this penalty kill kind of straightened out, and we're able to make the most out of our chances.
Omaha also very tough at home. Weird how it's split for them. First 6 games of the year at home for Omaha did not have a regulation win in their first 6 games. In the 10 games since then, no regulation losses, just 1 OT loss in that stretch. So a team that has been playing very well in front of its home crowd, and Huskies have not won in Omaha, not counting the pod. I mean, no fans. I don't think you can really count that as equal, but were swept there last year. didn't play there in the 1920 season, so we got to go back again, similar to North Dakota. Got to go back to 2019 to get a win for the Huskies in Omaha under regular conditions. Again, they had the pod there and all that in the 2020 December of 2020 or whatever it was. So been a tougher place to play for them of late, and it's a team that just came off a 5-point weekend at Miami. Had to scrape and struggle to tie the game there on Saturday. Threw a ton of shots at Miami, and Pearson was standing on his head. But we're able to tie it late and then score a goal in overtime to take both wins there, 5 out of 6 points. Did check those standings. They are at 38 points, Duluth's at 26, so you got the 12-point gap. They would just need one more point to seal it. They may have already done it. Like, I thought that Duluth or that North Dakota, I thought they were eliminated from home ice because they're 12 points behind the Huskies, and the Huskies would have won the season series against them if in a tiebreaker situation. But Schlossman, in one of his articles, pointed out that if there's a 3-way tie between those three teams, because there's an imbalance, they all haven't played each other. North Dakota and Duluth only played each other one series this year. Then they would go with regulation wins as a tiebreaker. So there might be a chance if Duluth wins out and Omaha loses out. Yeah, and I'm not sure actually because St. Cloud and Omaha play, but there is a chance that they could all be at 38. I think, for all intents and purposes, they have locked up home ice. I'll just say it that to keep it simple and say that. But there still is, I guess, a very 0.0001 chance of them not. But essentially, they have, which again, not on anyone's big bingo board. I think at the beginning of the year. So props to them. And
when you're talking about Omaha's, how well they've been doing lately at home too, their fans have shown up. They have been averaging, just looking back at the last couple of weeks. I mean, they had nearly 8,000 in one of the games against Colorado College. And they regularly get over 7,000 fans a game there at the Backs. I don't know if it's called that, just Baxter.
It is now.
It is now the Backs, the Baxter Zoo Arena of the Riviera. But, talking about, how big home ice is, Omaha and is pretty much, the same type of record when it comes to their home and away record. 9-5-2 at home, 8-5-1 on the road. St. Cloud State, it's completely different. I mean, we're 500 away from the Concrete Cathedral. We're 7-7-1. We're 11-2-2 at home.
It's feasting on that fat ice.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's absolutely key that we are able, and obviously we're in really good position still, but it's the fact that I'm even questioning if we're going to get home ice at this point is not a good sign. Even though if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year when we pegged them for 4th, yeah, this is kind of where we thought would be. Weird how seasons can kind of change perception like that.
Yep, very true. But yeah, I'm not going to set you got to take this many points. Just show me a good game. Like, I would rather, as crazy as it sounds, I would have rather taken less than 3 points this past weekend had the Huskies played way better,
if there was some sort of progress in getting better.
Right. Like if the North Dakota and St. Cloud would have switched sides on Saturday, like St. Cloud had the 30 shots on goal and they had the 20 minutes of offensive zone time, and if they would have just flipped that performance, I would be right now in this podcast a little bit more chipper.
Sure.
But they didn't, and I'm not.
It's, on average throughout the season, St. Cloud has got the edge in goals, the edge in goals against as well. But Omaha's been playing incredibly well lately. You're talking about Randall, Tachonic, who was the, did play for North Dakota, transferred to Omaha. a few years ago. This is his 5th year. He recently named Defenseman of the Week for the NCHC. He has been really an absolute stud for them on the blue line. And that kind of has been, I would say, maybe a little bit of a recipe to beat Omaha in the past few years, as their defense hasn't been incredibly good. But this team has been a little more stout than I thought they would be at the beginning of the year. That's for sure. So it's, they've got some players that can score, and if they defend well, and if they have an aggressive forecheck against this Huskies team, it might be a long weekend again for the team. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as like a barometer of where improving is, if we're able to kind of capitalize on that and capitalize on our odd man rushes. Again, we are such a poor team converting on these odd man rushes chances. And like you said, we had plenty of chances against North Dakota, plenty of chances shorthanded against North Dakota, couple of 2-on-1s, and just against a subpar goalie at that time too. With and it's, I don't know, there's just a lot of questions kind of up in the air that I'm looking for answers this weekend. I think I'm still feeling optimistic that we're going to turn it around, and I think we're gonna have a strong weekend this weekend. That's going to be my prediction.
All right. Well, I will be there, as I've mentioned. I will give you a review of the backs.
The backs,
as we're calling it now. On
are you going to the zoo?
Probably not.
Be honest. Go to the zoo.
I mean,
world renowned.
Do I need to pull up that weather forecast again? I'm sure going to a zoo when it's 21 degrees out seems all that.
I will have 21 inches of snow to shovel, so that's what I'm going to deal with.
This is true.
Can I at least get a picture of you flicking off a zoo sign? That's what I would.
Maybe.
All right.
We'll see.
Cool. If there's an advertisement for Omaha Zoo, I want a middle finger.
I think there was one in CenturyLink. I think they had some like mural of. I remember something about the zoo there, like probably an advertisement of some sort. If they have something similar at the backs, then I definitely will.
Perfect. Anything else you kind of want to add in on this Omaha series before we move on?
Nope, just win games.
Win games, play better. That's the, if we just win the next game, all's good. Actually, let's just go with that. Let's flip over to the women's side because they had a huge weekend playing against Minnesota State Mankato, who they're jockeying for in the standings. For position, somebody right on. I think they were tied going into the weekend. Mm-hmm. Minnesota State swept the Huskies earlier this season, and I was looking for some good punch back, and they were able to deliver with a big sweep and kind of I think a good statement series for Adolski. I mean, obviously you had those one-off games against against Wisconsin and against Minnesota. But, this was like at this time where your program's at, these are the teams I want you to show up against, and this is the ones I want you to beat on a more regular basis. And sure enough, they punched hard, they punched often, and they were able to get a sweep of Minnesota State. Were you able to watch any of the games at all, or were you able to take in anything?
A little bit of the games. Nice to see the offensive outburst this weekend for the Huskies. Just struggling to score more than 1 or 2 goals. I mean, a lot of that is chalked up to the fact that you've been playing some really good teams of late. But being able to put up 5 and 6 goals, and 4 in the second period on Friday, you had a 3-goal second period on Saturday. Being able to score in bunches is nice as well. Spreading the offense around. We've mentioned kind of Nealon, Lynn, Gentry, kind of being the carriers of your offense. Scribner scored a couple of goals this weekend. Wolf and Hall also got in the action on Saturday. You were able to spread some of the offense around too. So by sweeping this series, I mean, that clinches them going up to Duluth for the playoff series. Just saw them, just were up there in Duluth. Hopefully they can make it with this snowstorm. But,
yeah. They should leave now too. I know it's Duluth, but let's face it, that 23 sucks, especially in blowing snow. 23 is terrible to drive on.
God, don't remind me.
I mean, unless you go 94 down to the cities and up 35. I mean, I guess that's a way you could go about it too.
I was surprised to see that they are. So they got because Duluth is playing, the men's team is playing Miami this weekend, hosting Miami. I was just a little mildly surprised that they're playing 3 p.m. on Friday, but then they're playing 5 p.m. on Saturday, which means that the men's game is slated for an 8:30 local start, which is a strange time, pretty late. So that'll be a 9:30 local start in Miami if we have those diehard Redhawks fans. That was the schedule that I saw today when I was looking around. So, but it's playoff time, and it's
weird.
It's usually if you're going to play, especially for that men's side, you usually play that Saturday game earlier than the Friday game. And it's weird that if you've already played in the Friday game at 3 p.m., just keep it at 3.
Yeah.
But maybe they want to give the women's team, playoffs and give them a little bit closer to prime time. I don't know. If you're going to do that, maybe do that Friday, Saturday, like play the later game on Friday and then earlier on Saturday. But this way, the women don't have an earlier start, like the Motzko would hate it if you have two back-to-backs with the early start on Saturday, like a 3 and a 1
should put a day
PM.
in between.
Hate that. Maybe we could get that.
Put more days in between, actually. Let's put.
I know.
So.
And it's best of 3. I mean, so
great, Bob.
if they are able to steal one of these games, I mean, let's steal 2 of them. But I mean, it could be a long series here as well. 11th in pairwise as of today. Right now, the cut line is at 10. You've got 4 conferences represented in the top 10. You have that NUHA, which is outside that. So it's kind of the Atlantic hockey equivalent. They'll take the last
Alliance
spot. The Alliance, one of those teams will take a spot. So looking like winning the tournament is really your shot here.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with, this might be, I mean, it's going to be tough either way, but this will be a real tough one to have to beat the same opponent twice. I almost have more confidence, if you can call it that, to beat a Minnesota or a Wisconsin in a 1-game scenario than having to beat Duluth and Soderberg, their goalie, twice up in Duluth. So the task is a strong one, but at 18-16 and a couple of ties, I mean, at the very least, clinched a 500 season. I mean, if they get swept, they'll be 500, which I don't think any of us were expecting that in Adulski's first year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clearly been an exceeding expectations kind of year. Keep it going, because a sweep here could make things real interesting. I mean, that could vault you into some pairwise at large conversations. Again, I think that's a long shot, but let's make the long shot less long.
Yeah, especially with how stingy Minnesota Duluth has been at giving up goals. I mean, it's been tough to score against them, and with historically at least how offensively challenged St. Cloud has been in that aspect. Hopefully that train gets bucked, and we were able to pop in goals against Minnesota Duluth, which is better than not. So I'll have my eye on that weekend. So I'll be excited.
Yes, indeed.
And I'll put on the coffee there apparently for the
that's right.
for Minnesota Duluth afterwards. So they've got the 8:30 Central, and then so North Dakota Colorado College, they play at 6 Mountain. So that's at 7.
That'd be 7 your time.
Denver, Western Michigan play that day at 6 Eastern, so at 5. Wow. I'm a fan. Let's keep having these weird time slots.
Gives you an opportunity to check in on these games.
On all these
Watch them in
games.
the intermissions, and then, yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. As we're sitting here talking about kind of the rest of the league, let's kind of go over some of these other out-of-town scoreboard, out-of-town results. Anything kind of catch your eye about over the weekend? You had, like we talked a little bit about Omaha was able to take 5 out of 6 points. Western Michigan was able to sweep Colorado College. They continue their incredible hot streak. And then with Denver was able to, they beat on Friday, but Minnesota Duluth was able to beat them on Saturday in Denver.
In a high-scoring Donnybrook.
Yeah, right?
6-5. Chasing Krona. Your guy.
My guy. The average Krona.
That was, I think, the biggest surprise of the weekend was Duluth able to snag a win in Denver. As you said, Western Michigan, they had to squeak it out. Barrico played a great weekend for CC, kept them in the series. And Western Michigan had to score a couple of late goals on Saturday to overcome a 1-0 deficit, turn that into a 2-1 victory and a sweep. 10 out of 11 wins for Western. Dating back to the GLI, and that brings them within 5 points of Denver, and they host Denver this weekend in Kalamazoo. I'm going to call it Western Michigan's going to win this conference.
Whoa!
I think they're going to sweep Denver. And they're going to sweep Miami.
Win the Penrose or win the Frozen Faceoff?
Win the Penrose.
Win the Penrose.
I think they're going to sweep Denver this weekend, and then they'll
That's a call.
They'll take care of Miami. They might be out of any NCHC team, they might be my NCAA tournament pick. The way that they've been...
They haven't won yet, have they, in the NCAA tournament?
They won last year.
They did win
against Northeastern. The little cheesy kind of Levi misplayed the puck behind the net, and they scored an overtime goal. That was their first ever win for the program in the tournament. Then they lost to the Gophers in the regional final. But
that's right, because they were talking about how all these East Coast goalies were so good, and then you had him cough up the puck, and then you had Quinnipiac's goalie who allowed 4 on 13 or 12 shots or something like that. I mean, we still lost. He still got the win, but still.
Well, then he played terribly against Michigan.
Then
he got pulled in that game too. Parrots. So, he got pulled in that game. He did get pulled against St. Cloud, but yeah, what we're talking about, St. Cloud, like kind of a lack of adjustments, and we've been talking about the same kind of weak spots for this team. Think about that in the case of Western Michigan. We've been talking about the first half of the year. This team can score in bunches. They're putting up 8 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals. Pollen's got 25 by Christmas or whatever it was. But they can't defend. And Rowe is leaking oil there in net for them. He had like an 880 save percentage or somewhere in that range throughout the first half of the year. But in this 12-game stretch that I've mentioned since the GLI, which was Christmas time for them, they are now winning games with a more defensive style kind of game to them. These are the kind of games that you see in the NCAA tournament too. This is why I'm so high on them at this point. Is able to win a 2-1 game that you had to come back late to beat CC. Win a lot of 4-1 games, in this stretch, but you had the one blip in this 12-game stretch, that 7-6 wild win at North Dakota, where North Dakota is playing their third string goalie. Other than that, you can even go back to another 7-6 game at Omaha at beginning of December. Rowe has not given up, other than that 7-6 game at North Dakota, he has not given up more than 2 goals in any game since December 3rd. There's a couple of games where Western gave up 3 goals, but those were empty netter empty net goals at the end with losses at Omaha and versus North Dakota. When he's in net, he's only given up a max of 2, again, except for the one blip with that 6-goal spurt that he gave up at North Dakota. So out of that, 14, 15 game stretch, he has really he's really found his niche, and also credit to their defense as well. Obviously takes part of the credit there. And again, I mean, it's not like their offense has been tailing off either. I mean, yeah, it's just a 2-1 win against CC, but going back last month, putting up 4 goals a game a lot, 7, 6 in some of these outings, 8 goals apiece at the GLI. So the offense hasn't been disappearing either. They've just been playing a more tighter style of play and able to win kind of games like they did this past Saturday as well. So I'm very high on them. I'll watch them go out and Denver lay a stomping on them in front of the home crowd at Kalamazoo. But I'm more confident as far as any of the teams in the NCHC than I'm more confident about the Broncos than about anybody else at this point, even Denver. And that's why I give Western the edge this weekend. We'll see. I mean, if kind of one of those, are they for real moments or series this weekend? Defending national champions in Denver coming in. You got one of those games. The Friday game is a nationally televised game. So you got the pomp and circumstance of the Starman in the building and all that. Extra eyes watching the game who might be stragglers from the Buffalo Kent State basketball game that was before. Or maybe the New Mexico UNLV game afterwards. We got some early viewers. You got a chance to really
make a name for
your fold, get more fans in your fold here with the national spotlight on you. So I do feel like they are the team to beat in the conference right now. But other than that, yeah, it's that final kind of log jam around the middle part of the conference. That's still going to be obviously settled. Now, I mean, home ice, again, it's very much in the hands and the control of St. Cloud and Omaha, and Western has clinched home ice at this point with the 39 points, but also like the jockeying between, the race for fifth between UND and Duluth, CC, you got to put in that as well. North Dakota going out to CC for their only series this weekend, only series of the year. As you mentioned, this is the one of the weekends where these are just games where it's just the only time the team sees them this year. St. Cloud only that gets Omaha for their only time this year. Miami and Duluth are meeting for their only time this weekend. CC and UND, and then obviously Western and Denver. So these are teams that they're unfamiliar with this version of these teams, so that'll be interesting to see how those shake out. But coming down the stretch, 2 series to go. It's the only spot that's been clinched. Miami is in 8th place, and they will not move from 8th place. Everything else is still in flux. So exciting time of year.
I still think Denver's gonna get the Penrose, but I mean, that's just because of just the lead that they have right now, and obviously, Western Michigan.
Well, that really means that they're winning a game in Kalamazoo. I mean, if they get swept, Western's in first place.
Yeah. So
you're confident that they can win a game in Kalamazoo?
Yes, I am.
That's fair.
Now, with Western, obviously, talk about now. Is it Poland or Poland?
We haven't gotten. I've seen a lot of different. Pauline. I've heard a lot of different variations.
Jason.
I've always gone
Jason.
So, I've gone B Pollen. I've gone Pollen. That's what I'm going. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, like you said, obviously he was the hot goal scorer. His line mate Ryan McAllister, who I think is rookie of the year in the NCHC, as much as North Dakota is trying to pimp out Jackson Blake. I think McAllister's got it. Who is their leading, points, 41 points, 1.28 goal or points per game. When St. Cloud played them, it was Granger who was the one who got it done. Luke Granger was, and he's sitting there. He almost has a point per game average. You got Max Assassin, who's at a point per game average. So I mean, yeah, it's a high flying team, and and now that they've got a little bit more stability there on the back end, yeah, it's
that Galambos that they have, who is a AIC transfer. He's been really good for them on the point, offensive minded, plays power play minutes. He's been very good for them. Very good pickup in the portal for them this offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, with St. Cloud and Omaha, Western Michigan, and like looking at this, I'm salivating at this schedule this weekend. Like, I'm really excited for these games that are going to be played, and especially after hearing just kind of the wonkiness on Saturday too with the timing. Like, this is, yeah, I'm not getting off the couch. Like, this is prime time. This is going to be a wonderful stretch here. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just kind of looking back over the past couple of years to see where kind of the cutoff for the points, for the home ice would be. And, in previous years, 36 points, where the Huskies are at now, that got us home ice. So we're definitely on the good side of it right now. Just get things done here this weekend, and we're obviously going to be in good shape. So, and with us only losing 2 games so far this year at home, it's I mean, I don't want to talk about Miami, but it's I like, obviously, our chances at home a lot better. Michigan State had, I know, a tough weekend, losing to Wisconsin. Anytime you give up 6 goals to Wisconsin, you have to wonder what the heck's going on. So that was a little bit of the Big Ten update. I believe Michigan and Ohio State. Did you catch any of that face-off on the lake in Cleveland?
Yeah. Some ice issues.
Weird. Yeah, ice issues in outdoor college games. I can't believe they actually had a Frozen 4 at an outdoor. Not even outdoor. Ford Field's not even outdoor. Just on a football.
Yeah, don't blame outdoors on that. That was a travesty for a lot of different reasons, but you can't blame outdoors on that. But yeah, I had seen the one where I'm sure it's happened before. I know there's been ice issues in outdoor games in the past, which I'm not a huge fan of outdoor games. I don't know where you stand on that. I think they're a gimmick that's kind of played out at this point.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool when 45,000 plus came out to see it. Another data point for an uptick in attendance this year, which is good to see. But I haven't seen it where, so they stopped the game with 5 minutes to go in the second period to resurface, and then came back, played the last 5, took a 1-minute break, switched sides, and then played the rest of the third, which you knew, by the end of the third period, then you're going 25 minutes of game time without getting resurfaced. It was real. I mean, the puck was, he had to slap shot it out for a breakout pass, like very much, the snow buildup, the puck was just very slow and kicking up, and the ice was real choppy.
What'd you think of Ohio State sweaters or jerseys? I thought they were garbage.
I didn't have a strong opinion about it because if you're going to do the gimmick, I guess go all out. You're playing on a football stadium, so you're going to have some football themed jerseys. I guess that's what they're going with. Their jerseys in general are kind of blah. So if you're going to change it up, fine, because what you're getting away from isn't special either. So more so that was an important game between those two teams. So the Gophers clinched the Big Ten this weekend. Huge gap on second place, and Wisconsin has done their part and clinched last. But everything else, 2-6. Notre Dame at 6 right now could still finish second. Michigan at 2 could finish 6th. That's unlikely because Notre Dame plays at Michigan this weekend, but it's all jumbled together. And I guess Michigan couldn't, because Michigan State's done now. So they're at 34. So I guess Michigan could be 5th at lowest. But still, any of those teams, they have not locked in their seedings yet. That'll all be determined this last weekend. And with Michigan State dropping that game against Wisconsin. Killer for them because losing to Wisconsin, obviously not good. And that dropped them to 18th. They're at 500 right now. We haven't really been doing Wisconsin rule update with them because of this. Like they needed, if they were to lose to Wisconsin, it's a bad enough loss that it drops you out of the top 15. So, I mean, they need to win their playoff series in order to even have a chance. Because if they lose the playoff series, they'll be under 500. The thing is, if they lose that, they wouldn't be in the position to be Wisconsin out if they lost the playoff series.
Yeah.
At a game under 500. Whereas Notre Dame, however, also right at 500 at 14-14-4, and they're at 16th in the pairwise right now. They definitely have a chance to still gain in the pairwise to a point where they would be Wisconsin out. I'm looking at 2 and 3. I think getting 2 wins is better than just 1. Although it is possible that they could move up going 1 and 2. Ties and overtime losses in this last weekend. Obviously, you won't have the overtimes in the playoffs are 5-on-5. So those go down. The 3-on-3 overtimes where you get a little bump, like how St. Cloud did this weekend, that goes away in conference playoffs because those are 5-on-5, 20-minute overtime periods. So keep that in mind.
Like
and
God intended.
And obviously, ties are not possible because they'll just play on until someone wins. So you can't tie in the playoffs, and you can't have a overtime loss that you get some RPI points for. So you could. What I'm thinking is get a tie and a loss, an overtime loss this weekend at Michigan. Michigan's at 3rd right now, so a tie and an overtime loss, exactly what St. Cloud got this weekend to North Dakota, a team below them, and St. Cloud gained in the pairwise. Doing the same against a better team like Michigan is, I think that might bump Notre Dame up a little bit. Then I'm thinking win, so that'll put them at, or how about this? 2 overtime losses at Michigan, puts them 2 games under 500. Then you'll probably play like an Ohio State in the playoffs, sweep them to get back to 500, and that sweep will really help you. And then lose the 1 game against the Gophers in the semifinals. The Gophers will have the bye in the first round. And the semifinals and the finals are just single games, not a best of 3. So that'll give you 2 and 3 as your record, and 2 of those losses being overtime losses. I think that would be enough for Notre Dame to be in the top 14, 15 and have an under 500 record. I know this is a real obscure set of results I'm rooting for, but I want the Wisconsin rule to be applied once.
Right, exactly.
In my lifetime.
I do too.
And it's a possibility because they're going to play, obviously playing Michigan this weekend, they're going to play a good team in the playoffs either. There is a chance they'll play Michigan State, but it's a long shot. They'll most likely play either Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State, and those are all top 10 pairwise teams. And they'll likely play them on the road as well. So, and then if you somehow get by them, then you have the Gophers there. So, which they're probably the best team in the country right now. So, good chance that they can. They're our best chance, obviously, for the Wisconsin rule, and I am definitely rooting for it.
I think everybody outside of Michigan State is rooting for it. So, since we're in that neck of the woods right now, that was one of my sinkers for sinkers and floaters. Obviously, Michigan State dropping 4 spots. Cornell was the big loser, dropping 5. They went
bad weekend.
Yeah, they went from 10 down to 15 right now. Losses to St. Lawrence and Clarkson.
Both home losses too.
Yeah, so that was your big drop, and then I alluded to a little bit early. Boston University, BU, the Terriers, dropped 3 spots. Still comfortable at 9, but
9.
9 times.
So they're still sitting pretty, but the thing I wanted to point out was just kind of the big overall change that they've had. I've talked quite a bit about Hockey East in general, about how bad that they've dipped over throughout the, really since Christmas break, how a lot of their teams have really dropped. Now, one of those teams was Northeastern, who has now been on a huge upswing and is a floater, up to 14 here. Remember, they were 44th back in January, on January 2nd. But BU, just 2 weeks ago, they were at 3 in the pairwise. They were a 1 seed. And now they've steadily declined from 3, 6, 9. Damn, she's fine. So sitting down at 9 right now in the pairwise. So it's kind of a straight drop there for BU. So they're trying to get off the schneid here.
Yeah, 4 straight losses for them. One of those in overtime, but Merrimack getting off the mat.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little too little too late for Merrimack, but a good weekend for them. Obviously, win and an overtime
it's just a
win
little too late
against BU.
Little JoJo right there.
Yeah, Northeastern dropped on Friday, and I saw that which was weird because they didn't play. They only played a single game this weekend at Vermont, which they won on Saturday. But I saw that they dropped a bunch on Friday, and I was curious as to why. And it looked like they had lost another common opponent-based comparison to Providence, based on Providence winning on Friday. And they got it back. They won it back because Providence lost to UMass Lowell on Saturday. But that one is right on the brink of flipping. Now, the good news for Northeastern, read this on CHN, we're talking about those 2 comparisons to Union and Bentley, which are really sticking out like a sore thumb for Northeastern right now. Well, they play UMass this weekend, Northeastern does. And UMass also played Union earlier in the year and got swept to UMass. So if Northeastern just takes 1 win against a reeling UMass team that's won once in the calendar year, then they'd be able to flip that comparison against Union.
They
so
have
can take care
2
of one
shootout wins against Vermont.
Who does?
UMass.
Yeah, okay, all right. Sorry, Carvel.
So,
I games which they led 3-0 in both of those games, except Vermont, who's terrible.
Roll back the tape of me earlier saying, "Oh, we only count real wins on this podcast," and here I just come back.
Not when it strengthens or weakens our argument. You gotta keep that
actually, they also won shootout versus Vermont.
So they might be able to win back that Union comparison. It looks like that Bentley one is going to be stuck unless they play, I believe, Maine in the Hockey's tournament. It's incredible.
What a system.
Bentley's 5-1 win over Maine in October could play a major part in determining Northeastern's NCAA tournament hopes. It's nuts. You never know what's gonna screw you. But keep an eye on that because Northeastern's got UMass this weekend, and then they have Lowell to end the year, the regular season. And the Lowell games are big for those Providence common opponents comparisons. So if they lose those games, they're going to lose other comparisons as well. I mean, obviously, to keep it easy for them, they just got to win out. They'll be fine. But if they don't, not only will they drop based on their RPI dropping, but they're on the brink of some of these common opponents comparisons that they could slide even further. So keep an eye on that. Did you do floaters? I feel like we've just been negative, or did I miss that?
Well, Northeastern.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then the other one was actually Omaha. So we talked a little bit about already, but Omaha making quite a leap there, up 4 spots up to 13. So they're starting to look a little bit better every week. So they got a lot to play for here this week. So
just win one of those Niagara games, they'd be at 11. They won both, they'd be at 8.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
So,
and I was, it was that I was so excited because I saw it was that time of year for the vaunted CHN Pairwise Probability Matrix. One of my favorite features in the online world of college hockey, debuted this past week, and I was surprised to see St. Cloud was listed as 100% in their pairwise probability, the matrix. When it first was calculated, I think on Tuesday of last week, they've actually slipped.
They've slipped from 100% to 99.8%.
So the moral of the story here is, if you're at 100%, that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a spot in the tournament. That just means that in 100% of their simulations,
I think it's 20,000 simulations,
Cloud, something like that. And there's too many games left that doesn't include all the possible scenarios. It clearly didn't involve the scenario where St. Cloud loses every single game from here until the next decade, which seems to be the trajectory we're on. So when you look at that chart, it's a fun chart.
Well, we play Wisconsin again, don't we? Sometime we'll win one of those.
Hopefully we can get it back on the schedule. But it's kind of a fun chart. It shows not only the percentage of the probability of just making the tournament, but it splits it out versus at large and the qualifier, winning the tournament route, the conference tournament, and also shows sort of which seeding is most probable as well. And it also even gives you the red numbers here on the right next to the team. That's the Wisconsin rule probability. So that's the Notre Dame's right now at 18%. I think that they're underselling that because they're using Cratch to feed in their probability. They're not RPI, so maybe they're in love with Cratch, so maybe that's skewing the numbers slightly. But they give you, if you like the fancy stats and the fancy numbers, plus it gives us a good opportunity to use our brand new button bar and sound effect. And so we might be citing the Matrix down the stretch here, and look forward to doing that. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Well, sure enough. Yeah, I always like, just kind of looking at just for some of I always like to look at like the automatic qualifier sections just to kind of see, kind of what they, I don't know how much stock to take into it, but like just looking at it as they have St. Cloud State sitting at 22% chance to win the automatic qualifier in the NCHC. Obviously Denver at 34%, but Western Michigan at 25%, which, I think Western Michigan does have a better chance to win the way things are going here than St. Cloud does. So, but just kind of going down. It's kind of a cool tool.
Like right now, like they have Minnesota. 100% of their calculations have them as a 1 seed. Right now. There's no simulation that has them as a 2 seed or below. So, I mean, again, I'm sure there's a scenario where they're losing out and Quinnipiac and everyone below them is bumping up. And so don't take that as the gospel that's how it's definitely going to shake out. But
the gospel according to Woden.
According to Cratch. But 99% chance that Minnesota is going to be a 1 seed.
They'll be
probably a very good chance that they're going to be the number 1 overall seed. So that's kind of, it's just kind of interesting too to see how the seedings, where the bands of seeds that is most likely. And the Matrix does love the Huskies, so maybe that's our hope that we cling to, is that they might, power play units still struggling, and it sucks that Anhorn's up, but God, we're really solid in the Matrix. So keep the faith. That's
good advice for you, because you were just so melancholy right at the start.
Well, said at the beginning, you get a chip a chair and the chance.
Smashing
I'm looking
Pumpkins
forward.
album.
Yeah, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, I think, for sure. Because that's the only one that I can name. But
like, obviously, that's a really good album. But did it need to be a double album? I don't think. I think most double albums don't need to be a double album. So you can probably cut 3 or 4 of those songs.
I can bring that to Billy.
There you go,
Corgan, and give him that message.
Obviously, their other big album. But Smashing Pumpkins fans are just going to be ticked when I say that. But Siamese Dream was the one just before Melancholy. But
okay,
so
what was it? There was one after that too. I have a couple friends that are huge Smashing Pumpkins fans. They would be very disappointed with me right now as well. But they're good. I like them.
Yeah, I do too. My wife likes to make fun of me because I really like Matchbox 20. And
I do not.
Wait, what?
I don't like Rob Thomas. Never been a fan of that voice.
What?
Hate it. That song that he did with I don't think it was Matchbox 20, but the one he did with Santana.
With Santana, Smooth.
God,
are you kidding me? Smooth is...
Shut up.
God, wow, this is blowing my mind right now. So
I'm always good for a hot take.
Like Yourself for Someone Like You is like one of my top 5 albums of all time. Like, I mean, it's
sorry to break it to you, not one of my top 5 albums.
Well, clearly not. So do you not like Matchbox 20 or do you not like Rob Thomas? Is it like a Maroon 5 Adam Levine
I don't like
situation?
his voice. I don't like Rob Thomas's voice. Ergo, not going to be a huge Matchbox 20 fan because of that. So,
God, I'm really tempted to just rage quit this podcast right now. I'm like offended. Like usually, and that's like my wife's point is like nobody has that strong of an opinion of Matchbox 20. It's like, so it's weird that I do like them so much. And now here you are, like we're on the opposite other side of the fence of that you hate them. Or you hate Rob Thomas.
God. They did 3 AM, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some songs
3 AM, Bent,
are just
Unwell, Real World.
For some reason, I lump them together. Maybe this is
how far we've come.
This is blasphemy, but Third Eye Blind, which I'm more partial to. I like them more.
Back to Good, If You're Gone, Push, Bright Lights. Like none of these are like, oh, wow, okay.
I guess hate would be a harsh word. Just if they come across the radio and they're playing, I'm probably turning the channel.
No, I'm cranking it. Oh, all right.
It's good.
Questions. We're gonna move over to questions.
We have several questions.
I've got several questions for you, but now I'm feeling unwell. I'll say that.
Don't get bent out of shape.
Too late. I forgot Eric Chester, new father. So congratulations to Eric. And he just had a question, or Eric had a question about the, basically he was asking about bringing his newborn over to the National Hockey Center for a game for the first series against Minnesota Duluth there at the end, and wondering if that's too young, even with earmuffs and whatnot. I will say that with Clara, now with the twins, it was kind of a whole different beast. With Clara, I know I was very protective of going anywhere, so I guess it's just kind of dealer's choice. She probably would have been fine with the headphones on and kind of muting out everything, and they sleep a lot anyway at that point, so you're probably fine. Enjoy. I think actually her first game might have been Hockey Day Minnesota. for Clara. So,
Which was, how old was she?
I think she was over 1 at that point.
Okay, and we're talking.
So
Eric's newborn is like weeks
Months.
old.
Months.
Yeah. I defer to the parent on the podcast for this one.
So, that's up to you. Basically, is all I'm going to say about that one. But I know that I wouldn't, just because I am a big baby when it comes to that. I'm overprotective of all my kids, and I already know that's going to scar them probably for life. But so, questions. Let me get one. Obviously, Dan Jacobson. Are you looking forward to Snowmageddon? No, not at all. But I think, we always have this one last hurrah of a snowstorm before we get to spring. So hopefully we just get it all out of our system here right now. But
a little early. You might have like another one, because there's always a March.
There's always a March one too.
Yeah, it's the heart attack snow, where it's the heavy.
Yeah,
you're going to have a heart attack shoveling the sidewalk.
And obviously, me being again older millennial, talking about my age, everyone my age and a little bit older has a Halloween 91 blizzard story. This is going to be the 23 President's Day blizzard. Now we're going to be talking about this story for the next decade plus. So, Steve Orvis, a little bit off topic, but like his thoughts on why the Frozen Face-Off is always held in St. Paul versus somewhere like Denver. This is not the WCHA with 5 Minnesota teams. I thought this was kind of an interesting question for a couple of reasons. Mainly because now it's more of the norm, I guess, that conferences have on campus tournaments. From now on. So, it's kind of an instance here for the NCHC. Obviously, you've got, 3 teams in really close proximity, and, it's a little bit more of the center of, if you just kind of lay out the map with obviously the 2 Eastern teams as well. So, I would really only think of maybe Omaha being a different site for it, but I don't know. I can't think of a better site it would be. I don't think Denver would be, just with only 2. And again, Omaha's a little bit of a long road trip to Denver. But if they're going to keep going this route, I think also the fact that you might get some just hockey fans bleeding over from other conferences as well. If those other teams like Mankato or Bemidji, maybe a little bit less Bemidji, but like if Mankato or Minnesota, if they're not playing that weekend, maybe they go check out a game at the X. So I think that kind of plays into it a lot. Do you have any thoughts about that? Is there any other area or city that you would think, or maybe a rotating? I know the WCHA did that with Milwaukee for a little bit before they decided just to stay in the Twin Cities.
I wouldn't be utterly opposed to changing it up and putting it at different sites. One thing too is St. Paul is that, yes, there's teams close, but there's no team in St. Paul, whereas Denver, there is Denver is there, so it's like they wouldn't have to travel at all. Even St. Cloud and St. Cloud would be the closest to it. They would still have to travel to the Frozen Face-Off. So I think that was part of it. Let's be honest, I think it was trying to preserve the tradition of the Final Five, and their main customer base is North Dakota fans. So do you want to put it at a place that's too far for a groundswell of North Dakota fans to travel there? I would prefer it not to be in Grand Forks. It's been there. We added that COVID year. It was in there. We talked about this last year when, you've made an annual visit to the Final Final Five and now Frozen Face Off.
That I have.
That's kind of been a tradition for you.
Only missed the Grand Forks here.
Yeah. And that's going like back to the Target Center.
Yeah.
Right. So there is the tradition again, different spanning 2 conferences now, but I think that's a part of it too. Maybe that's clinging on too much to tradition, but we talked about it last year as far as, a lot of these other conferences are moving to campus sites only. And we're leading the choir as far as put the NCAA tournament games on campus, at least the regionals. Why shouldn't that apply to conference tournaments? I think we agreed that the ideal is to have a neutral site conference tournament, provided that you are able to draw well and that it's a good fan experience. If you saw the last couple of Big Ten tournaments, when those were still, they were rotating that from the X to Joe Louis or whatever, the Detroit. I think it was still Joe Louis at the time. They only lasted 2 or 3 years before they pulled the plug on that, because those were like 1,000 people, maybe.
Yeah, those are
counting like the teams and the media and the refs, like maybe 1,000 people in those buildings for those Big Ten tournaments. And it's not, thankfully, it has not gotten that bad for the NCHC, and that's a good thing. I guess you have to weigh the fact of
cost.
Would you rather? Well, costs, but also would you rather have great atmosphere playing in campus sites versus 12,000 at the X? It's not a dead building, but it's not packed either.
Mm.
Is that enough for you from an atmosphere standpoint that you'd say, yeah, the neutral site is better or is preferable? What would you say to that? And if they did go to campus sites and the championship game is in Denver, are you and your dad going to Denver for that final game?
Nope. No matter who's not going to be able to do it. So, yeah.
But what would you prefer between like what the atmosphere we have now? Is that better or worse than campus sites?
I would say as long as we keep having upward momentum with the neutral sites, I'm okay with it. Now NCAA tournament, obviously I want campus sites, and I don't even want regionals. I just want one game weekend.
Right.
I
was meant like replacing the regional weekend with on campus.
Yeah.
Quarterfinals. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're in agreement there.
But with the, I would like, because obviously the WCHA Final Five, it didn't all of a sudden start out with 18,000. Like that was,
right.
It built up to that. So as long as we keep building up, and I think, as long as there's that forward momentum, I think that's going to be a good sign. And I feel that there has been more and more year after year. So as long as that continues, I would like it. I wouldn't mind going, back the other way. My dad and I would have to bond over something else then. Maybe we'll take a golf trip somewhere or something like that. But it's, as long as it's, profitable and a good move for the conference, and yeah, I'm all for it. And I think I just can't think of a better spot than, like you said, than in Minnesota. Because I don't think Denver's a better spot than Minnesota.
And we've always like the North Dakota factor.
Yeah,
we have, and it's like if North Dakota doesn't make it, boy, they're going to take a bath. We have some data with that because they didn't make it to the Frozen Face-Off in 2019, and the attendance was worse. It's been around 11,000 to 12,000. It was that last year and previous to the 2019 season where North Dakota was in it every year. Between the Target Center and the XL, at that 11 to 12,000 range. In that 2019 Frozen Face-Off, 9,000, 9,600 for a semifinal with Denver and Minnesota Duluth. 10,000, 10,500-ish for the consolation and the championship games. So it wasn't. It was a dip, but it wasn't a catastrophic dip. So obviously they'd love to have North Dakota make it because that means, at least if we're taking this as our data point, at least 2,000 roughly bump in attendance. I'm actually surprised that it wasn't more, that North Dakota didn't, that their absence wasn't more obviously felt at the gate. But that gives you an idea that it's not just a North Dakota show, that the other teams in the conference do their best to bring their fans. I mean, Denver, not so much, but they don't travel really anyway.
No.
So, and it's not like they're struggling to compete in these things, because it seems like they always win the Frozen Face-Off. You go back to the Final Five, they won a slew of those with 14 fans, which were all parents, rooting for them in Denver maroon in the stands. So I don't think they're struggling because they don't have the fans on their side. So there's that. They can always take that as being, we're the outsiders. No one likes us, but we'll stick it to you. And a lot of times they've done that. So yeah.
Aaron, special teams. They don't look special or like a team. Your thoughts? It's pretty good. Yeah, it's everything's going to get tested again. I mean, obviously throughout the rest of the year, but this weekend it's going to be pretty big. Alan Merrick, what's with all the 5-minute majors this year? Feels like there's one in every game. I do feel like the review has something to do with it, and I feel like the reviews haven't gone St. Cloud's way. Now, when I say that, it's going to sound sour, but really the only sour one, I guess, would be the Brand, and that wasn't a 5-minute major. That wasn't a called against him. But Lutke's 5-minute major, that originally wasn't called at all. And then they reviewed, they challenged, and then they did end up going back to it. So
in that case, they can only give a 5-minute major.
Correct.
So I mean, they can't give a minor in that situation. But there are situations that call a minor and then review it for a potential major as well.
Which I think is what they did with Gabers on Friday. Now, I don't know if that's just what they're doing just to kind of hedge their bets to give him more leeway as a referee. I mean, I guess that's what I would do, is just call it the lower and then review to see if it should be a major versus just calling it a major. And because I don't know if you can call it a major on the ice and then downgrade it.
And was the Lutke major, was that reviewed because of a challenge?
That was a challenge.
Dakota?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's another situation, too, where the refs weren't going to call anything and they weren't even going to review it until North Dakota, put their timeout on the line to do that. So it's another intriguing aspect of it. I've said it before, I'm not huge with reviews, video reviews for anything. And yeah, I think there are too many 5-minute majors called. Yeah, I think it's just an overabundance of safety concerns. It's a violent sport. It can get violent. There should be 5-minute majors called sometimes, but especially when it comes to, like this Dan Drager was the ref this weekend, and he's so demonstrative in his calls. Like, he's just very 2 minutes for tripping, and he makes a big show of it. He's a ref that just loves making the game about him. And these 5-minute majors are so vital turning points in a game. I just don't like it where it's almost like these refs, some of them at least, take their opportunity to be like, okay, this is where I really assert my presence in this game. And then you get to the point where it's like, well, now that we called the 5-minute major on that team, then I got to give one back to the other team.
You got to give another one back, yeah.
Maybe not a 5-minute major, but we'll give them a chintzy 2-minute minor to cut the 5 minutes to 3 minutes. And the next thing you think, it's just then you're thinking back on the game and it's like, boy, this is really over officiated. and loses the pace and loses the importance of 5-on-5 hockey, which should be the main that's the majority of the game. It really shouldn't be decided all on special teams. Like, that can be the difference in the games, but give them just call the obvious stuff. Don't look for to be creative. And when you look on the video review, it's very hard for them when you're looking at it on a loop 7 times to say that's not really a penalty. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it either. And the one benefit, because I actually watched the Saturday game late, I didn't watch it live. I went to a bouncy ball game.
Whoa!
Shockingly,
was it Kent State versus?
It's not
UNLV?
Not the MAC, but University of Arizona is doing pretty good this year, and I've wanted to get to a game. We could do a separate podcast on that about sort of fan atmosphere in basketball versus hockey. Like, they're very different fan experience types of sports. And
let's put a pin in that. Let's do that for a summer.
It's something that I think hockey struggles to compete in the atmosphere of the game to basketball, I think, especially college basketball. And University of Arizona is like a top 5 team. They're very good, and they've had a very good year. Very good.
Did they win?
Years. They did. And so, I mean, we're not talking about a Kent State and Buffalo game, which I'm sure the atmosphere isn't quite at the level that, it was a 14,000 plus packed arena, and it was fun. But anyway, so we watched it afterwards. I did it really nice where I toggled the don't show the scores and everything. So I was in the dark. I didn't know the score and was able to do it. But the best thing is I was able to just fast forward through all those reviews, all the commercials. So it was nice in that regard that I didn't have to sit and wait for these reviews.
All the talk about how great Salquist is. Good Lord.
Did you see the one where he's been, again, just waxing poetic about his face-off draws, and they showed one where he literally did not touch the puck. The North Dakota guy poke-checked it, and it looked like a St. Cloud won the draw, but literally Salquist didn't even touch the puck with his stick. But I'm sure he's credited with the face-off win because they got it back to the point. And it's getting to the comical stage, because there was a Mick Hatton article that said his face-off percentage is at 54% this year.
He was
good, but
yeah, he one win, 7 losses on Saturday.
Yeah, that Saturday was a rougher night for him. But yeah, it's similar to the thing in like baseball. If a catcher can't hit, like if he's off, like if he's a terrible hitter, that means commentators will overstate how good of a defender he is. Like,
or a game manager, or he knows his pitchers really well, or
God, just pitchers just love throwing to him.
Yeah.
He's hitting a $140, but hey, that guy can dig a ball out of the dirt like no other. And it's similar in this regard that these face-off wins, it's just so key.
I'm trying to think of who the Twins catcher was. Obviously not Joe Mauer.
Junior Ortiz.
No, it was
AJ Pierzynski.
No, he was good.
Butch Weiniger.
No.
Tim Laudner.
Who are you? Like obviously I've heard of Tim Laudner, but like everybody else, I'm like,
Junior Ortiz was the backup catcher on the 91 team. He wore the number 0, which was always great. He would have been like a perfect example of this because he couldn't hit worth a lick, but he was like Scott Erickson's personal catcher. So he played in the World Series because whenever Erickson started, he was the catcher. But he's probably like an average defender. But he was just like, oh God, Junior Ortiz.
Henry Blanco. That's who I'm thinking of.
That's another one. That is a good one.
Henry Blanco is the guy I'm thinking of. Is they would talk about how great of a catcher he was, and he would always hit like 210.
At a playoff game where he hit a home run.
Yeah, actually, every time I was talking bad about him, he would end up hitting a home run. Like it was, my college friends actually called it the Henry Blanco effect. It's like, Travis, say something bad about Henry Blanco. He's up to bat, and I was like, God, he sucks. And then he would just belt one.
That's the title of this podcast: the Henry Blanco effect.
The Henry Blanco effect.
Better or worse than Tom Prince? Another great no-hit all-field catcher from that era.
I was going to go with something Swoon related for the title of the.
I'm telling you, I could go Twin Sketchers all day long.
Why? It sounds terrible. Twins anything sounds terrible. God, what a sorry franchise. Dylan, DMTR Gaming saw shades of the usual good penalty kill on Lukey's Major on Saturday. Was that just a fluke, or are we starting to maybe see some life in the penalty kill unit again? Yeah, and that's what we're talking about the we had quite a few chances there on that 5-minute major that we were killing, and we were just a lot more aggressive, and it feels like that kind of caught North Dakota by surprise. They scored just after that, but it was obviously I think hopefully that's going to be a step in the right direction. Now everything kind of looks like it's a fluke as of right now, until we see a little bit more. So hopefully against Omaha, who has some firepower again, we kind of keep up that tenacity and that aggressiveness. These players have to make plays, and I think we're just not doing that right now.
What you said.
Yep. And UND fan or UMD, a Minnesota Blue fan, Donna, 3-point unbeaten weekend. Not a question. That's just that's I made a note because I think that's what Omaha's Twitter account. I think last week. I think they had a 3-point unbeaten weekend. We have
some more Omaha math goodness here.
So just the fact that we didn't technically lose the game, or it was an overtime loss and an overtime win. It's a 3-point unbeaten weekend.
And yeah, I suppose it's just how it's the perception, because 6-game winless streak or 4-game point streak. We're hot, baby.
We're hot, baby. We're coming in hot. And then I want to close it out with Jeremy Johnson here with kind of the lingering shadow, the lingering mist, the darkness kind of over everything. Was the loss of Anhorn as devastating as it seems? And my gut says no, because I feel like it's just a matter of clearing the zone. But I guess that's what Anhorn was so good at, that we didn't just flub it right to the North Dakota defense. So maybe it was. I didn't think a transfer was gonna have this much of a high impact. But we were able to obviously to piecemeal that 2-0 Denver win. But after that, it's been a free fall.
Yeah, can we get Peart to play like Anhorn?
Can we get Peart to be better?
Can we get Peart to play like Mason Reiners?
Can we get he's like a dollar store Jack Ashawn. Is kind of what I like. If you take away Jack Ashawn's positioning and his overall offensive ability, is what Peart is to me. It's
very simple. Peart just doesn't score enough.
Yeah,
being Ashawn.
Yeah,
like Ashawn's. We're not talking about,
and he's not as good defensively.
Defense.
I think he was underrated on defense because positionally,
I think he's fine. I just think he's more of an offensive defenseman.
Yeah. Well, for being as short as he was, I thought he was incredibly good because his positioning was so good. Now, Peart, I just don't see it from him.
Yeah, I mean, so they can make up this gap with losing Anhorn by having some guy or guys step up in his absence, like improve their game. We haven't seen it yet, but there's still time.
More tray ball on the power play.
Right. I just don't know if that's really working all that hot either. So, yeah, I mean, after that Lutke injury or DQ, Wiley was seeing a bunch of ice time. He might have been the victor of that scenario where he got more ice time. And Reiners has basically stepped in and played every game in that since Anhorn's injury too, and he's been fine. He's not gonna grace the score sheet too much with offense, but there's been some defensive lapses, but for the most part, he's been unoffensive. I'm not offended to watch him. You can't say offensive because you mean the offensive side of the game, but got to pick a better adjective. But he's been fine, I think. But just no one's collectively, either one guy or multiple guys, haven't stepped up to fill all of what Anhorn was. And maybe that's just because Anhorn's a special player. That certainly could be it. But I guess we'll know at the end of the year. This is another one and done year. I mean, talking about the similarities from this group to last year, that was a one and done year. If it's going to be another one of those, we can say, Anhorn was the key here. That injury was the key. But if they, get it together and go to Tampa, which Dave Starman claims he expects, then, hey, Dalen who? So, well, the results will speak themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that about does her here for this elongated episode here of the Huskies Hockey Podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening. And I am Weldy at More Clappers, MOAR, More Clappers. You can reach me on Twitter, wherever your tweets are found, I guess you could say. Andrew, you can reach him at
Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. If you're going to be in Omaha this weekend,
reach out.
If you're braving the blizzard,
buy Andrew a beer.
Be there. Buy me a beer. Email me so I can get that beer from you.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Thanks again, everybody. And until next time, go Huskies. Woo! Woo!